Hello, I'm Leisa Holland-Nelson, co-host of Culture Club HTX, and I'm so excited to be here today with
Shavonnah Schreiber, the other half of Culture Club HTX, and
our very special guest, Tracy Dieterich, who is here to talk to us about Big Brothers and Big Sisters, a beloved organization in Houston. Tracy, tell us all about the organization, how long it's been around, everything we need to know.
Well, thanks, both of y'all lovely ladies, for having me, and
You're
friends,
welcome.
family
Yes,
friends.
yes.
Big Brothers Big Sisters is just a super special organization, and it's actually been around for more than 100 years.
Wow.
Started in New York City. It has a really neat beginning. Is there was kind of a judge that had like some, as I recall, kids like, on parole, and they were trying to figure out a way to sort of help fix this problem, and they came up with the idea of having a one-on-one positive mentoring match set up with an adult, and that turned into Big Brothers Big Sisters over 110 years ago.
Wow.
So in Houston, we've been around, I think it's 70 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic organization serving the greater Houston area and all kinds of communities. Basically with what I call at-risk youth, so mostly young boys, some young girls, typically in ages kind of from 7 to, maybe 16. But most of them, it seems like, are kind of in that, 9 to 12 range.
Yes.
And they traditionally don't have one of the parents. So with Big Brothers, it's a boy that doesn't have a father, or has a father, but they're not really active in their life for multiple different kinds of reasons. It could be sometimes that it could be a very successful affluent mother that doesn't have a father in their life, but that just doesn't seem to be the majority. The majority of the young boys, high majority are men, are young boys, and the high majority of them are minority, African American and Hispanic. And so we want to improve on that, and we've got the statistical proof at Big Brothers Big Sisters to show that the having a positive role model, whether it's a male or a female, the results are the same. They do better in school. They're less likely to use drugs. They're more likely to wait until they're married to have children, to graduate from high school. We have something like 93%, I think, is the number of our kids when they graduate. This is HISD. Either go to one of three things: the military, or they have some type of job or some type of education. They're enrolled.
That's awesome. And, little known secret, you are the person who introduced me to Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Well, actually, it was Valerie via you, but because you invited me to a luncheon years ago, probably 15 years ago, at the Astros, the stadium.
I remember.
You remember that?
I do.
And so I am a native Houstonian, and I'd heard of Big Brothers Big Sisters. I didn't really know much about the organization until that luncheon. So thank you. Okay, so in addition to, you've been involved with the organization and you're being honored. So there's a big thing that's happening in a few weeks on October 3rd. Tell us about that.
October the 5th, yeah.
5th, sorry.
Saturday, October the 5th, we're having our annual Big Brothers Big Sisters of Houston Gala. It is at the Corinthian downtown, and it's always a ton of fun. And they asked Valerie and I to be the Big Impact Community honorees, and we're absolutely humbled to do that. Because we love the organization and the important mission that it serves. So
in Houston, we have all of these nonprofits. I think we do philanthropy really well in Houston. But also, because we have so many, I think that sometimes it's difficult to decide which to give to. And so some nonprofits end up being underfunded, or people just don't know. So if someone wanted to support Big Brothers Big Sisters, how do they do it? And then just from the challenges in general, what have you seen in your time being involved in the organization as something that the community can do to help, continue to help? Is it volunteer? Is it give money? What is it?
Yeah, great question.
Maybe.
All of the above. Great question. Here's the deal. So there's a lot of great nonprofit and important nonprofit organizations in Houston. I think we're the most generous city in the country. I'm a native Houstonian.
Actually, we are.
Yeah, first generation, and I love everything about Houston, except the weather sometimes. That we're friendly, we're welcoming.
You keep leaving.
Yes, you know me well. And we're involved in a lot of those organizations. So I laugh because I serve on 4 boards, and we're involved in over time easily well over 100 organizations, and they do great work in a lot of different ways. But here's something that's different. So I know if I give money to the United Way, or if I give money to the American Cancer Society or the Red Cross, I know they do great work, but I don't get to see it. Like, I don't get to see an individual's life being changed, right? Whereas I could actually go donate, call it $1,000, $1,200. It's about what it takes cost-wise to match a kid. I mean, we have inflation, and for a year with a positive role model, a one-on-one mentoring relationship where they get together about 4 hours a month in a safe setting, and everything from go to the store or go to the park or go look at open houses or go have lunch or whatever, and pour their lives into them, and have all those great results that we just talked about, the statistical proof that we have. And I can actually see a life be changed for a really relatively low sum of money. And I love that about it. I really love it.
That's great. So Leisa, you joke that they're always leaving. So in addition to volunteering, you and Valerie love to travel. So how does, you've been to over 100 countries and all the continents, I think.
All the continents, all the states.
So how does going other places and then coming back change your perspective or worldview and make you even more committed to the service that you're doing at Big Brothers Big Sisters and in other organizations? What do you love so much about traveling?
I had a mentor when I was young that really got me into the travel bug. And, I kind of grew up in Southwest Houston, really on poverty, and so never went anywhere. And it started to sort of open my eyes watching him travel, and I just had this thirst for sort of exploring and learning, and I'm intellectually curious. And so, when I first got out of college, I and had a few dollars, I started doing, snow skiing and scuba diving, and that was about it. And then it was later when I actually finally went to Europe for the first time. I probably had a 10-year period that I wanted to go and just wouldn't really take off from work. And also, it's a little bit intimidating. I think travel could be, the unknown could be intimidating.
That's right.
Very.
Which is what's kind of driven the Rick Steves book, get it and just go, and you'll figure it out. It's not that hard. But I went and probably a little over 25 years ago for the first time, and I just got bit like nothing ever before. And I've been back every summer since to Europe for 25 years. But I just love, with a thirst for knowledge, the cultural differences, the architecture, the food, the wine, of course, the people. They're so fascinating. And really, I find that the world is a lot safer than most people make it out to be. And
everywhere.
Yes,
really everywhere, no matter what you're hearing about wars or whatever.
We're all just people.
Safer when you get there, yes. And the people are very, very, very kind.
That's what I find.
I mean, they love to talk to you. Not so much in Paris, but the rest of France. The rest of France forgives you for your poor American French accent. Paris, they'll talk to you, but they know you can't speak right.
Well, there's differences, right? They want you in Paris, and I love Paris, and we were just in France. I've been home from France for less than a week in the south of France. But what they want you to do is, like, here we'd be like, hey, how do I get in the front door here? Like, that's what I said downstairs. And there, they don't want you to do that. They want you to come up and say, excusez, or excusez-moi, or bonjour. And then if you'll say that and sort of address them and then ask the question, do you speak English? I'm trying to find this thing. They'll totally help you, but it's just the cultural differences, I think, of America
just starting.
Being very direct.
I get it. I have a question.
Of course. Of course.
Well, here's my disclaimer, too, talking about travel and saying that it's safer than the media makes it out to be maybe sometimes. I'm not saying that means just go with no regard to safety. I think we always want to have our head on straight, pay attention. But I was just in New York 2 weeks ago with my wife. We didn't, I wouldn't have said if you were going to New York and you're both ladies and if you went by yourselves, I wouldn't say be careful. But I would, of course, think, well, be careful, but be careful in Houston. But we don't,
you have to be careful. You have to be aware.
Be aware.
And awareness is the key to safety.
Right.
But I've been all over the world, over 100, I think it's 107 countries now, all 7 continents, and knock on wood, have really never had a problem. I mean, I've had a time where I was a little bit nervous, but I've never had a problem, and just have so many wonderful stories. Now, not everything goes perfect, right? You have some bad stories along the way.
Yeah. But that builds character.
It does.
Yeah.
And resolve.
So now my question.
But I think it opens up your whole mind to just the world and how we're all different, but we're all still the same.
I agree. Leisa, we'll let you ask your question. What?
It's burning.
Go ahead.
I'm going back to Big Brothers and Big Sisters.
Sure.
Why did you get involved? What made you get involved? We didn't ask that key question, so I want to hear your personal reasons.
Well, that's a great story, and a great question is, like a lot of people, I do have a heart and want to give back, and I want to help others, and especially maybe people that are less fortunate than I. And I feel like, I honestly do. I think if we're born in America and we speak English, I think we hit the lotto, and I just think it doesn't get any better than that. And we have to be thoughtful about that. We have a lot to be thankful for, and I have so much gratitude. But if you go way back to the beginning, I always tell people you don't get to decide how you're born, how you come into the world. You just kind of come in and you've got to deal with it. And we don't know if we're on this side of the tracks or that side of the tracks or whatever. But of course, I was born here in Houston, Texas, and really was born into chaos and poverty. My dad left when I was very young. I really didn't know him. My mom, bless her heart, was raising 3 kids as a single mother, working 2 and 3 jobs, the hardest working lady I've ever met. And it was actually through Big Brothers being sort of a product of the system that I got involved over 50 years ago, or about 50 years ago. And so when I was 9 years old, I'd go up to my mother's office in the summer, and one of the guys there said, "Hey, I think your son, Tracy, would do well with having a mentor." I'm the oldest male, and there's this program called Big Brothers. And thankfully, my mother was open to that.
So you had one.
So I had a big brother.
Oh my gosh.
I my big brother, Kelly, I still say I have a big brother. He passed away pretty recently in 2017.
I'm sorry.
But after meeting him when I was 9 years old, if you go fast forward, he was best man at our wedding 13 years ago.
Wow.
So we had a friendship that spanned, 50 years. I'm still very close to his family. His sister I just have had text with in the last week. His wife of 30-something years also passed away a couple of years later. But he has a daughter and a stepdaughter. And it just is really an awesome organization where he poured his life into me. And even though the program officially closes, they close the match when a child graduates from high school. And then there's just kind of no rules. You're just friends.
Yeah. You built a relationship at that point.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're friendships and relationships that very often go on beyond that, and sometimes for a lifetime. So there's literally thousands of stories like mine. I'm not the only one around the country of people that are still in friendships and relationships with bigs and littles.
Well, I had a feeling there might be a story like that, and I think it's so important for people to understand that you can do anything if you just want to. Just the fact that Big Brothers, Big Sisters was available to you, your mother was okay with you doing it. Here you meet someone who shows you what the possibilities are.
Right.
Doesn't just teach you how to act, but really shows you a lot of the world of Houston. And you get a choice, and you made the right choice. So congratulations. I'm really honored to have you here today.
Well, thanks. I'm honored to be your friends and be friends with both of y'all. And, if Kelly was sitting here today, Kelly would tell you that he got more out of the program than I did. And
I hear that from
crying?
my friend.
Nobody's
crying
in here.
Mike, we've been talking about. And I don't know how many littles he's had, but they're all still in his life.
Well, Tracy, you've had
nobody's
several
ever
littles
leaving.
also.
So
You've had 5?
I'm on my 5th little brother
Yeah.
now. So I've been matched 5 times as a big brother. I'm still in touch with 4 of the 5 of them.
Yeah.
It takes 2 to have a relationship.
Of course.
So I'm matched with a little boy that just turned 9. And it's just awesome. And so people ask, how do you do it? You have a super busy career. You have a wife. You have 2 kids under age 7.5. and a lot going on. I serve on 4 boards. And I feel incredibly blessed and honored to live in this generous country and this world, and like I said, all the just good things that we have. So I think we have a responsibility to give back. I think it's partly responsibility. There's a famous verse from the good book that says, "To much he who is given, much is expected," and I think that that's true.
Yeah.
And the need is there. So there's I think 800 kids on the waiting list right here in Houston. I mean, everything from Sugar Land to North Houston, South Houston.
800 children
kids
on the waiting list.
And all we need is a person to step up and say, "Hey, I'm married, I have kids, but I could find 4 hours a month." And here's the thing about it: you don't have to go find a new 4 hours a month. I didn't go find a new 4 hours a month necessarily, but what I do is try to sometimes just bring them into our lives on things that I'm already doing.
Yeah, take
and
them
just
along.
include him. I mean, if I'm going to go do a birthday dinner, or I'm going to go do this, or one day I went and just not with my current little, but because there's some rules and regulations as you kind of get going. But I was super busy, and I took my little brother and said, "We're going to go get the car washed. I'm going to get a haircut, and I'm going to go get a wedding gift, and you're going to come with me." And he was like, "Cool, that's awesome."
Right?
They just want to hang out.
It's like an adventure.
Hey, I'm with them.
So
I want to hang out with you too.
In the
too,
South
me
of
too.
France, that's where I want to hang out.
Yes.
So
Amen,
tell
amen.
me, tell us, how can someone learn more about the organization, and especially if they are looking to get involved, help alleviate this 800 littles that are waiting to be matched? So where do people go to find out more, and how do they get involved?
Yeah, 100%. I just helped somebody in the last week. Somebody reached out to me and said, this person's interested, and I got them connected. The easiest thing is to go to the website. You can just Google Big Brothers, Big Sisters Houston, or the website is bbbstx.org.
Okay.
And you'll see on there some different cities, and you can just select Houston, and you can apply online. And they do a really great job. I think of it back to when, I've been married over 13 years now, but when you were dating and, you think about someone matches you with all these, hey, you're into sports and they're into sports and you're from Ohio and they're from Ohio and all this kind of stuff. They kind of do it like that. They have all this data and they do it by location and interest and things like that. And then they monitor the match to make sure it's going well for both parties and that it's safe. But, we always say you can get involved in a couple of different ways. We say fund a match, be a match, or find a match. So you could say, hey, listen, I'll donate. I actually met a guy on a plane one time flying back from Dallas to Houston on a work trip, and I'm sitting there talking to him, and I said I was at a board meeting for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and we start talking, and he said, I know the organization, I like it, I've always wanted to do something, and when we landed, he said, I'm going to donate $10,000 to Big Brothers Big Sisters, and over time, this guy donated well over $150,000.
Oh, wow.
A guy that I'd never met and met on a plane.
Man, you must have some good plane conversation. Don't sit next to Tracy. Large your pocketbook. Jeez.
There's people out there, and you don't want
crazy.
to rob the gift of the giver, which is
he wanted to. I'm sure. I mean,
we love to give. I mean, yes, we have to pay our electric bill and everything else too, but we love to give in both our time, talent, and treasure. So you can fund a match. You could also get involved and be a match. You can do it as an individual, as a couple, or as a family. And I kind of think of it as we're all in this together.
That's right.
So my littles eventually meet our family and our kids, and I want them to know how blessed they are and be a part of of another kid's life. And they're all just kids. They're all the same.
Yeah, they just want to play and hang out.
Or you can help us find a match. You can meet someone like, us and say, hey, I'm going to connect you. I think you might be interested in doing this. And a guy that I went to high school with, and I hadn't seen him in years and ran into him, and we kind of got back together being friends and hanging out. And I said, hey, why don't you come, get involved with Big Brothers? And he became a board member and was a phenomenal board member.
Did he give you $150,000 also?
I don't know.
We're going to check it out. We know where to look.
We know where to look, and we will be at the October 5th gala too.
We will.
So
fantastic.
Thank you so much. This was so great. So fund a match, be a match, or find a match.
And Big Brothers, Big Sisters Houston on Google or BBBSTX.org.
Do we have time for one more quick story?
Sure.
So here's one final story I'll share with you, and he has not given me permission to share it. I don't think he would mind, but I won't say his name. But there's a guy that I grew up knowing. He was my mother's boss, worked for an insurance company many, many decades ago. And I stayed in touch with this guy. This guy was great to me. He was great to my mother back when I became a Boy Scout and an Eagle Scout.
I'm saying you're an Eagle Scout.
I'm an Eagle Scout. I had to plan a project and you have to fund it. And this guy that my mom worked for gave me $100 for my Eagle project back in the 70s, which is, I don't know, that's got to be like $300 or $400 today.
Oh yeah.
And so that's like someone coming to your office and saying, hey, my kid's doing this, but you're going to write him a check for $400. I mean, that's a lot, right?
It is.
So, and I've stayed in touch with him. He's a fantastic human being, and I love the guy. He's got great integrity. And I saw him at lunch about a year and a half ago. Somebody had died, kind of in his peer group, and so I took them to lunch. But I just reached out to him, like I would with anybody, and saying happy birthday. Texted him. But going back to when you and I went to that the very original. I don't remember the exact date, but I remember when we were at the Astros field. I also took this guy to one of those lunches, and he came and a couple of the guys from his office. And of course, he knew I was involved in Big Brothers Big Sisters, and he donated, maybe $1,000 or a couple $1,000. I mean, something very generous.
Yeah.
And then that was it. Well, anyway, I reached out to this guy a few months ago before the summer and texted him and said happy birthday, and he texted back and said thanks, man. And he said, I've been meaning to tell you. He sold his business and he's single. He said, I've been meaning to tell you that I redid my will. And I've left $1 million to Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I just wanted to tell you.
Oh my God!
And I was like, wow. And so I let Big Brothers know, and I want to hope this guy lives forever, right? But he, someday we're all going to be gone. And so amazing. I think there's just there's great joy in giving, and there's great joy in giving of your time to pour your life into. Where else can you go? Look at the ROI here, and spend a couple of hours a month and watch a kid grow up into an adult.
Successful adult,
productive,
yeah.
Think about the joy. So the other thing I'll just end with is, I talk about the ROI. I'm an investor. I love to invest. I love to invest in companies. And I always think about that ROI. But my deal is on Big Brothers Big Sisters, you're going to pay. Like, you're going to pay one way or the other. Don't kid yourself and think you're not involved. Mm-hmm. We either pay and we go donate our time, our talent, our treasure, and we help these kids that are at risk, like I was, or they could go down the wrong path and we end up paying because they're going to end up in a lot of times in prison. Mm-hmm. And you know how much that costs. We could talk about all those statistics. It's terrible. Terrible for society, terrible for them, terrible for us who are paying it.
Right.
Or we can help them and we can break that cycle and we can have them go out and become successful adults, whether they become rock stars, or they're it doesn't matter if they go in the military, if they get a job, if they're working at Target, or if they go get a college education. We don't care, but they're tax-paying, responsible citizens. They're not sleeping on their mom's couch forever, right? And so I think either way, we've got a responsibility to do something. And to me, the best ROI that there is Big Brothers, Big Sisters, one-on-one mentoring.
Amen.
Amen. And with that, we'll be back.
We'll be back.
Thank you.
That was so good.